It's not in the face! Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Hey Not the Face with your host John Nash and your producer me, Steffi Haynes. And today we are going to talk about the Ali Act revival bill and where it's going and what it's doing. We're going to talk about a new earnings report that was released about TKO's financing. We're going to talk about Mark Shapiro on the TKO earnings call. We're going to take a brief look at Zuffa Boxing and at the new fight that was announced late last night, Connor Benn versus Regis Prograis. And we're even going to take a listener question. But first, we're going to start off like we always do with UFC antitrust cases, but you will likely want to subscribe to the show with a paid subscription because otherwise you won't have access to all of these things because, as you know, we always put about half of the show behind a paywall. John, how the heck are you?
Well, spectacular over here. My contact is loose, so I am winging it because usually you send me the questions ahead of time, so at least I can keep track of what's going on. Like it's at least not all the questions, but the idea of what we're going to talk about. And now I have no clue, so I am winging today's episode because my eyes are really blurry.
Uh-oh. Well, that is no indeed. Good.
Yeah, so I just might start, answering my own questions, ignoring yours and just answering what I want to.
Because, you know what? I feel like we are pretty much almost a singular mind most of the time regarding the stuff on the show. So I think even if you started answering and asking your own questions, it would still be what I wanted to know. So I'm confident it'll be okay.
I am not confident in your confidence. Let's just put it that way. But let's go. We'll give it a try.
All right. So as we always do, let's go ahead and kick it off and ask, have there been any new filings in the UFC antitrust cases?
Yes, there have been. There was actually a couple. One just right before we started recording here tonight on Thursday evening. The first one was filed, I believe, late Tuesday night. And that was probably the more important of the documents that were filed. That was a motion for sanctions filed by the plaintiffs. Was it Tuesday night? I guess yesterday it might have been Wednesday. God, see already, I'm confused without my contact in. Everything's distracting. But so just recently filed. So it's a motion for sanctions filed by the plaintiffs. And, it's they're asking for sanctions against the defendants, which are the Zuffa, the UFC, synonymous, TKO Operating Company, and Endeavor Group Holding. And the core allegations are the plaintiffs argue that the defendants have engaged in an ongoing pattern of discovery violations. They include as we've been talking about the last couple of months. If you're new to the show, you missed it. But if you've listened to the show, you've heard our constant talk of the spoliation of evidence. So the critical custodians, that would include UFC President Dana White, Ariel Emanuel, and several VPs, purportedly destroyed or failed to preserve or lost years of mobile device communications, despite being under litigation hold since at least 2014 or 15. So they've had these holds in place, and yet they lost all this material. And they point out, the plaintiffs, that it was selective deletion. The plaintiffs allege that the custodians manually deleted messages, use ephemeral messaging apps. Those are those ones that delete over time, like Signal, to avoid creating records, and affirmatively change phone settings to delete texts after 30 days rather than keeping the forever default. That's what they allege. I don't know what evidence they have of that, but they brought that up in the hearings. I think it's an explanation of what happened to all this material. They also allege that there was a concealment and obfuscation by the defendants, that the defendants are claim that they only discovered of the spoliation in October of 2025. Even though device images as early as May 2022 reportedly showed years of missing data, And we discussed this, I think, I can't remember how many episodes ago, just how strange it is that they've only realized now in the last few months that they're missing this material when they're doing device imaging supposedly several times a year, and should have realized that years ago. And so they also claim that the defendants have violated court orders, allegedly violating deadlines for substantial completion of discovery, and failed to comply with disclosure orders regarding the cataloging of their devices and apps. So those are the allegations. Now, here are the rundown really quick. The specific custodian failures. There's custodian Dana White. We had a whole hearing in Vegas where I went to and sat through to watch him tell his side of the story, but he allegedly failed to back up at least 7 devices, deleted his Instagram messages, and provided not what they claim was not credible testimony regarding his role in data preservation. You can be the judge if you thought his testimony was credible or not, as we described it. And so because of that, he lost like 6 years, 6.5 years, maybe 7 years of material. So that's one. Other custodian is Tracy Long, who allegedly spoliated data from multiple devices and affirmatively switched to a 30-day auto-delete setting. Hunter Campbell is the third one, who allegedly failed to disclose a primary business phone number that contained thousands of texts with Dana White. And then finally, it's Ari Emanuel is the last custodian they have, is allegedly withheld his current business device and used Signal for ephemeral, which are self-deleting communications. So that's, I'm sure people realize that's a pretty core group of executives right there. And the allegations are they deleted a lot of their material. They also bring up Maynard. McMaynard is someone that has not handed over key messaging. And so that's what they claim now. So what they're asking for sanctions. They're asking for the court to do sanctions, basically punish the defendants for these actions. So the requested sanctions, because the plaintiffs believe these actions have severely prejudiced their ability to prove their claims, they are requesting severe sanctions. And then they're including the terminating sanctions. That's a default. They're asking the court to enter a default judgment against the defendants. I'd be surprised if Boulware does it, but that'd be massive because basically what they're saying is just rule in our favor because these guys deleted so much. If that doesn't happen, they have a suggestion of several others, and that includes an adverse inference. They want a mandatory instruction to the jury to assume that the destroyed evidence would have been unfavorable to the defendants, and they have a long list of possible ways he could read that off to the jury. They want evidentiary preclusion that would bar the defendants from introducing certain defenses, such as claiming the UFC lacks a pay structure for fighters, or that competition increased after July 2017, because they're claiming we can't prove or deny that because you deleted all the evidence. So we have to remove that. And then there's the presumption of relevance. They're asking that evidence from a previous related case, Lee v. Zuffa, be presumed to reflect the current state of the industry due to the lack of new evidence. And that would be favorable to the plaintiffs, I think, pretty obviously, because they got class certified with that evidence. So if the judge was presumed to say that that material still is relevant, that the situation remains the same, that'd be very beneficial to them. And so that's what we're asking. We'll wait and see when the judge issues this order. He demanded that they get this delivered to him, that they come up with this motion for sanctions by this date. And I believe he will be addressing this on the March 3rd hearing. So we will see. We have a lot lined up on that status hearing. A lot of stuff coming up with Judge Boulware because we have that and the dominance MMA question. So a lot of stuff going on in the court right now. A lot of stuff on the plate to Judge Boulware. And I, based on the last hearing that they had, that sounded like Boulware was not fully convinced, or maybe let the UFC off the hook. I have to guess he doesn't go all out. But again, that could be Boulware kind of playing poker or whatever. We will have to see, because some of these rulings, if he goes with the plaintiffs on their sanction request, if he grants it, some of these could be really, really detrimental to the defendant.
What about the new stuff that you have?
Well, just like right before the show, like I made the mistake of checking Pacer right before the show. There was a notice of a related case filing submitted to the court. And what that is they're saying they have a similar case that should be overseen by Judge Boulware. And that new case is another not antitrust, but another class action. What is an antitrust? It's a complaint requesting class action status. And so I had to look it up. I had to download it, the whole 100 and whatever pages of this complaint. I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, but it is another potential class action filed against the UFC, but very different from the others. One, it's not filed by the same attorney team, completely different team of attorneys. And so while the previous 4 cases were filed on behalf of professional MMA fighters, this, which I guess is called the Constantino, that's the litigant, the would be the named plaintiff, the first person named, is on behalf of consumers who they claim paid supra competitive prices to watch UFC events on pay-per-view and streaming services. And so what their argument is that because the defendants have monopolized or monopsonized the market, professional fighter services, they control the market so much that they can put forth substandard product that fans have to pay a large amount of money for. And so they are asking for damages to be paid to fighters to fans that had to dish out money for these substandard cards.
Oh, my.
And so that's the new complaint. I do not see how they would get granted, honestly. And I am not an attorney, as I got to remind people. I am not a legal expert. I am a person that speaks to legal experts a lot and covers this. So I guess I have probably a better than, typical person understanding of these type of cases. But I just have to, based on my knowledge, I have to assume that I find it hard to believe that this, maybe it's possible, but I do not think this will be viewed as a related case, because even though it makes a lot of the same allegations, because it's basically borrowing from the other cases, it's on behalf not of fighters, and it's not a monopsony charge. It is a monopoly charge where they're accusing the UFC of using their monopoly power to deliver substandard product. I don't know how you prove that either. I think they might have a hard road to hoe there, but I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, a lot of people out there going, damn right they've been delivering a substandard product. So
they sure have.
So that is the new filing. I'll have to read that filing sometime tonight. Unfortunately, I'm using the correct use of literal here, not the Dana White literally, where it's not literally when he says that. I literally saw that 30 minutes. I think I've timed it some 30 some minutes before we started recording. And by the time I downloaded the complaint, there's no way I'm going to read 130, 190 page complaint before we start the show. So I will have to go over it, and maybe it'll be worthwhile discussing the next show. I will let you know what if there's any good tidbits. I didn't even get a chance to scan for my name, so I didn't have much time.
I will say this about the new complaint. It may not go far, but I'm really happy it is alive.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that's a slam dunk. That case,
no.
The slam dunk case right there.
I cannot imagine that being a slam dunk. Again, I've been working with you for too long for me to think that is a slam dunk, but I am super happy that it is alive. Whether it dies on the vine very quickly, that remains to be seen. I would, if I had to make a $5 bet, I would bet my $5 that it doesn't go far. But I'm really happy that little seed took hold in the form of a complaint.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look through the complaint and see if they cite care, don't care as an exhibit at all, as evidence of the lack of care for their product, of why it's that. I'm going to look and see if that gets in there somewhere.
Also look and see if the fact that I put out all the alternative stats for all of these shitty cards every week, where that I put how many fighters are coming off losses, how many are coming from the Contender Series, how many of them are coming directly from the Contender Series in a debut, all the things that are basically barriers for entry that would have happened, 15 years ago. There would have been a much higher barrier for entry, but now there's zero barrier for entry. Let me give you a small little example. this weekend's card, UFC Mexico, features only 2 ranked fights, and the main event is not one of the ranked fights. The co-main event has a guy that is coming into the fight on a 3-fight losing skid. There's a guy that has a several fight losing skid coming in that he lost his fight from the Contender Series and still got, drafted into the UFC. Lost his fight. So, and then he lost his next 3 after that. So, there is literally no barrier for entry anymore. And so, I salute these crafty people for their complaint.
I should note, too, looking at it, that the attorneys that filed it, they're not the same, none of the same parties, none of the same firms that filed the other 3 current ongoing class actions complaints and the previous Lee v. Zuffa class action. But it is apparently a reputable firm because I believe one of them is a person that was involved in the MLB Scout class action case. So these are, and I put that in air quotes when I say that because, as we know, lawyers are lowlifes. None of them are really not trustworthy, but they've won. They've been involved in serious cases before, so that is kind of worth noting. But it's still, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to get too excited about this case yet.
Indeed. All right. We're going to move on from there into the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act bill. Has there been any significant movement with that bill this week?
There has been. There is something worth talking about. It just happened today, it looks like. And that is that it's moved out of committee. Even though it passed the vote, it's moved out of committee to the House of Representatives, basically to the floor. And it's been placed on the union calendar, according to the action. So if you go to .gov, congress.gov, you will see that there's a text that gives you everything about the bill. So if you look up HR 4624, the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act of 2026 on congress.gov, there's a page that gives you a summary of the bill, gives you the text. Should say there's 2 versions of the text now because now they've uploaded the new marked up version. So all those changes that we saw them discuss have now been introduced into the bill. Still in there is that drug testing that all the local promoters are kind of freaked out about, that the ABC members are freaked out about. That is in there. They did nothing to get rid of it. And then on top of it, there's another page that shows the co-sponsors, committees it's in, things like that, and then actions. And the newest actions are that it was reported amended by the Committee on the Education and Workforce, the Committee on Energy and Commerce discharged, basically just had nothing to do with it. They went along with whatever the Committee on Education and Workforce did, and then it's been placed on what's called the union calendar, which is the calendar schedule. Now, it hasn't actually been placed on the calendar yet because I looked at the calendar, which is the congressional calendar for what bills are going to be voted on, when they're going to be on the floor. It isn't listed yet. There's a general rule that you have like 72 hours advance notice. So I would imagine we would get at least 72 hours, and sometimes it's days, sometimes it's weeks before it gets to the floor. But it isn't on the calendar per se yet, but we should get a 72-hour notice. But it has been handed over, and so we can look forward sometime soon, I'm guessing, because it's supposedly a priority for the GOP. Sometime soon, it looks like it'll probably be introduced to the floor for a vote. And if it passes, and then someone was going to have to introduce the bill into the Senate, and we'll see the same process on that side. So that's where we're at right now. It's a big step because it's one step closer to being passed. It's the next big hurdle is the vote in the House of Representatives. If it clears that, we need a vote in the Senate, and then they're going to have to reconcile the 2 bills if they both pass. And then, of course, it goes to Donald Trump, where I think it's basically rubber stamp at this point. It's going to, if it gets to him, it'll be signed. So definitely one step closer towards its goal of becoming a law. It's a bill. Just remember your old, what is those old cartoons they used to do? With,
Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock. That's it. I'm just a bill.
All right. So moving on, let's take a look at this new earnings report that was released about TKO's finances. What did we learn from them?
Well, I almost feel like we could just repeat last year's earning report or the year before because there just seems to be a trend. They would you be shocked if I told you they hit new records?
I
Probably
would not.
No, yeah. So that's what we got. A lot of new records, a massive amount of revenue. We look at the revenue. We're going to focus on the UFC, as everybody knows, TKO is UFC, WWE. They own a piece of Zuffa Boxing, but there's no Zuffa Boxing category at all yet, and I don't know when there will be. The professional bull riding, IMG, all together. But this is a combat sports show, so we're going to focus on the UFC, MMA, and on those finances for last year, the 12 months of last year, they saw an increase of about 1.4 billion to just over 1.5 billion dollars in revenue. 1,502,200,000 to be exact. That was their total revenue for last year. So they've gone up, again, over 100 million. Their EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, was 851 million. That is their adjusted EBITDA, which is a 57% margin. That's not profit. That's a lot. That's close to profit. That's a surrogate sometimes for profit. People sometimes use it for profit, but technically that's not profit, because from that, those earnings, we've got to deduct their taxes, which, it's a pass. It's corporate taxes. It's not like income tax. We got to deduct their depreciation, amortization. There's some of that. We got to, but they don't have. This is not an entity that owns large amount of. As much as they talk about the PI and the offices, this isn't a company that owns tremendous amount of actual physical material stuff compared to other companies. This is not like. I'm going to use In-N-Out Burger. It's a fast food chain, all under one corporate control. There's not the franchises. Well, they own equipment in every place. That has to be there's a depreciation on that, right? So we have to deduct that. You'd have to deduct a lot from those businesses. Here, there's not as much, and plus depreciation, amortization is barely more accounting tricks than anything. And then there's the interest rate, and the UFC still has 2.77 billion in debt on the books that they have to pay off. But even with that, their cash flow, according to their earnings call, we'll talk about later, is around 60%, which is a pretty good, we could use that more as probably true profit net income, 60%. So you're talking about 500 million a year when they don't have to pay out for antitrust suits and other legal fees of close to what approximately a proximity for their profit. It would be higher if they hadn't taken out so much debt, because remember, their debt was not technically to build the company. Their debt was to pay off the previous owners, right? That's what they took out, several billion worth, and then took out another, I think, $600 million just to give to Endeavor so they could stay afloat during the COVID. So the fighters should be proud that their hard work was sent directly over to Endeavor and sent to the Fertittas and Dana White so they can live with multi-generational money for the rest of their life. But that is the baseline revenue. Now, there's a lot of other interesting stuff in the books that came out as well. We know it looks like that fighter pay went down just a smidge last year. We know that they don't say what fighter pay is, so I know a lot of people ask about that. What is the fighters are getting paid? But we know, based on filings in the Johnson v. Zuffa case in the settlement, that payouts.
You mean Levy-Zuffa settlement?
Yeah, Levy-Zuffa, sorry. The Levy-Zuffa settlement and the part when they broke off Johnson from part of that settlement, that the Johnson class for a large number of years made $1 billion and $22 million from July 1st, 2016, up till sometime in 2024, I believe. We could calculate that because we know the UFC's revenue. That means fighter pay, not their total costs, have been averaging about just under 17%. And so we can take an educated guess that fighter pay has stayed in that range because it's pretty easy to look at their finances every year and see that they've kind of stuck to this formula they already knew they were going to keep based on filings, that it's very likely that the total fighter compensation last year was under $250 million. That would be total fighter compensation. It might be a degree lower than that. It might be more like 230, but it's under 250, we'll say. So we can infer that wasn't reported. But they did report that fighter pay and production costs were down a little bit from last year. They have a new version. They don't use site fees anymore. That was kind of interesting news that they brought up. Site fees now are going to be referred to as FIPs, I believe, is what they're going to call it. And a FIP is a financial incentive package. And the reason they want to call it that, because it covers the whole scope of the agreement now for their site. Instead of site fees, were just payment for holding the event at a location. Now that's a combination of cash, non-cash subsidies like tax breaks and marketing and other things like that. So
that was in the filing?
That was in the filing. That
wow.
was.
I know that they talked about it in the call. I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah. So we have FIPs now to keep track of.
No,
so that's
you
the baseline.
have FIPs. You have FIPs to keep track of. I just listen.
Yeah, well, that makes it easy for you. Yeah. I think they come up with these terms because they're almost embarrassing to go check them and ask people about. Like, what was your FIP for that?
So let me ask you this. Are there any plans to take some money and pay out the head honchos?
Well, there's discussion of distributions and dividends to be paid out. They have been doing some stock buybacks. They did note that they're not going to be paying. The plan is not to pay down the debt. The plan is to distribute money and to do some stock buyback. So they didn't give out. I didn't get, from what I read and from listening to the call, direct numbers of what the big honchos are going to get, but it's obvious. The stock price has gone up. It's a $40 billion entity now. TKO, the whole, not the UFC. The UFC, they claim, is a $20 billion property. And so those guys, the head honchos, I am sure are well taken care of, and we should have, as I glance through, future filings, we will see something in there that'll give us an update of what their kind of compensation package is. Everybody but Dana White. Dana White's not reported, but Emmanuel, Shapiro, the other executives, a lot of them will have numbers for us.
Why not Dana White?
Well, because technically, I don't think he is he's not considered an overall company executive, and also because I don't think he owns large shares in the company like the other executives do. His package he was bought out, if you remember, so his package does not include stocks. Though my understanding is he owns some shares. I think he did admit under oath he still owns shares in the company, but I'm not. It must be a small enough portion that he is not forced to file.
There was also an earnings call where Mark Shapiro discussed those FIPs, and also he discussed the White House card. Was there other notable things that you derived from this call? And also, what did you think about what he said about these FIPs? And because I'm loving the FIP thing, and the White House card. I keep thinking there's a song where they talk about she's got hips, and now I keep thinking she's got FIPs. So
don't plant that. Don't plant that.
You know what? That seed has been planted already. Just the fact that you heard it right now, you're going to think about she's got FIPs. So, there you go.
Yeah, well, there was some interesting stuff in the call. I guess there was plenty of interesting stuff, actually. If you're into this stuff, some people might not be as into it as we are, but they did talk about the White House. They claim they're not going to make any money, that it's going to be a massive money loser, that they're going to lose potentially $30 million, that the price tag will be $60 million when you include everything, production, fighter pay, all that stuff. It's going to go probably over $60 million was their claim. Now they claim they have $30 million in partners to pick up part of the tab. Now, the way they talked about the partners, they talked like they're going to do special events to raise extra revenue, get some money back that way, that they're going to have sponsors at those other events. So it sounded like those were basically sponsors and merch and things like that are where the revenue is going to come from. It did, just based on the way they were describing it, did not sound like they were talking about the Paramount license fee. So if that $30 million doesn't include the Paramount fee, right? That's we got to add that, and that that should be what, in the $30 to $40 million for a numbered event. So I still have some questions when they say it's going to lose this much money, if it really will, because otherwise, with that, it's hard for me to believe that the Paramount is going to be so much past above the Paramount fee, and with these additional revenue from their partners, that they're not going to make any money, because they just got a new Paramount deal, and that new Paramount deal, reportedly, though they didn't get in the full in here, but from other analysis, is probably going to add about $250 million to the revenue this year, and so that's a sizable amount of money, and so you'd think that would help cover some of these costs. On top of it, they did kind of know it's a lifetime opportunity, even though they might not make any money or lose money in the White House. Think of the exposure they're going to get from this, right? They're going to drive tons of traffic to Paramount to subscribe. That's going to get their Paramount partners happy. They're also going to introduce themselves to large numbers of people that probably are not really that familiar or that interested in the UFC. And so they're hoping to convert a lot of new fans to start checking out the UFC from this one White House card. So that does sound believable to me, that whole description of the White House card, the purpose behind it, the money loss. They also point out they want to do these one-time huge spectacle events. They joked at doing it at the Kremlin. I could buy that. I'm working with Putin.
To access the bonus content of this episode, you must be a paid subscriber. To do that, go to heynottheface.substack.com and subscribe today.
Ow! Ow! Not the face! Ooh! Ooh! Okay, the face!